his Nightline, September 6, 2007.
Good evening, I'm Terry Moran. Well, the housing market continues to crumble, and tonight we've got the story of one intrepid real estate investor who's weathering those storms. Today, foreclosures hit another all-time high. According to a report out from the Mortgage Bankers Association, more homeowners this spring received foreclosure notices than in any other three-month period in history. That's terrible news for investors and for anyone looking to take out a mortgage, but it's also hard on those so-called house flippers. ABC's Mary Fulginiti met up with one colorful character. So colorful he's got his own reality television show. He's the latest installment of our series, Realty Check.
I have my list here because I can't possibly remember every single detail.
You could say that it's his obsession with detail that got Jeff Lewis his first million in the real estate market.
Now this needs to be white.
He started out in realty in 1988.
Sergio gave us samples. I initially had started with apartment buildings and, you know, being in the business of rental property and managing and tenants, and that wasn't for me. I had a couple bad apples.
Rentals weren't for him, but flipping properties were, buying low and very quickly reselling high. For 8.5 years, he was making money hand over fist. He purchased 45 properties and sold 40 of them. He currently has one in escrow, but who's counting?
It's stucco. I don't want it to crack after the fact, and you can never really patch it. It never looks right. I remember I used to say to my mom when she'd go to the grocery store, pick up some house magazines, and I would literally sit and watch TV and draw houses. And I was 6, 7 years old. So it's always been a passion. Can you fund Friday if I sign tomorrow?
His fixation on details is what helped him score his own reality show on Bravo, aptly titled Flipping Out. It's all about the reality of realty when it comes to flipping homes.
There is usually one to two flip outs a day. There's been people that have come through his houses and they look so clean and perfect that they've said, does the American Psycho live here?
I get what you're saying. You have been doing a great job, but this is a up. I have so much to worry about right now. So much. I have more on my plate now than I ever have before. This I don't need right now.
But just as he was filming his reality show earlier this year, the market took a turn for the worse. Jeff was juggling 6 properties, and the audience saw him almost lose it all.
It costs a lot of money to be Jeff Lewis, let me tell you. I feel like all we do all day is write checks. All this money goes out. No money comes in. I have $125,000 in the bank. Do the math. I got a couple weeks, and then I'm in trouble. I have to risk my capital every day of the week. So I have, at any given time, I have millions of dollars out in a market that's a little uncertain right now. So it can be stressful.
It has always been his family of assistants and pets who help him keep it together and keep him making money.
I constantly ask Jenny's opinion. Jenny's been working with me for years, and she actually has developed a sophisticated design aesthetic. And so I run a lot of ideas and bounce them off Jenny.
And when he needs a crystal ball, Jeff consults with a psychic, not only for himself, but for his pets, too.
Is there any way that you could communicate with him and tell him that I'm not going to leave him, ever?
It's okay.
So I have moments of weakness and I have moments of fear, and I just need to hear from someone that's going to be okay, even if they're totally lying to me. When I'm done, I feel good.
All right, Jeff, which house is this?
Okay, this is Nottingham.
And now, instead of flipping out over the recent real estate downturn, Jeff Lewis is taking it in stride and doing something unusual.
So your adjustment to the downturn in the market is to buy more homes as opposed to spend less renovating the ones that you've already got?
I know that sounds a little crazy, but I'm actually going to have to increase production. I'm actually going to have to buy more homes to make the same amount of money that I was making in the previous years. Okay, who's next? Jose? Yes, sir. I think what's happening is this is taking longer. But I think the good houses in the right locations that are done correctly will sell. But they're not going to sell in 4 days. They're going to take 30, 60, 90 days.
But making money in any real estate market is all about strategy.
At the end of the day, how does Jeff Lewis and his company make money?
I mean, we don't pay retail.
Right.
I never pay retail. We get great deals on the houses on the front end when we buy them. We do the right improvements that maximize the value when we sell them.
Jeff says he's branding a product, Buyers notice and appreciate the top-of-the-line fixtures and high-end elements that go into a Jeff Lewis home.
And the floors, you said, are hardwood?
Yes, they're real wood oak. The bathrooms, and it gorgeous?
Yeah, that's what I want.
I agree. That's why I always say I want a Jeff Lewis house.
There was a time when Jeff could choose who bought his homes, but not anymore. It's a buyer's market, he says, which is forcing him to negotiate and sometimes renegotiate each deal.
The problem with these real estate attorneys is that they sometimes complicate the deal. And he's asked for a $10,000 credit for repairs. It just seems like entitled and threatening, and your ego gets involved. It isn't really the $10,000, it's the principle.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
I know you're talking to Bonnie, but I think you should know I want out. You have to pretend like you're going to walk from this deal. This is just a nightmare that doesn't look like it's going to end even after we close escrow.
There was a day in time where they would go within a week, and now
I was
things
very
are
spoiled. We were very spoiled. I mean, we put our house on the market. 3 days later, we had 4 offers, and I could, I'd interview people, and I'd just sell who I liked. Who I liked. Who was the nicest, most polite, and who was gonna appreciate my house the most. And it was, of course, you had, I had a huge ego then, and then now, what's burst is my ego. It's not the bubble. Let's just give him $5 grand.
Yeah, I said that's fine.
Ultimately, the profit I will make on that house dwarfs the $10,000 credit. But it becomes this issue of right and wrong. It's principle. I think that Carrie and Bonnie should split the $5 grand. They got me in this mess.
They're not going to go for that.
I rarely ask for real estate agents to participate because I do believe that they work very hard. If they want to see this deal work, they're going to have to participate. And I don't like doing that, but in this particular deal, I need to. I think in the last 8.5 years, we've been riding the wave, and we've been making money hand over fist. And it's changed, and I will have to tighten up the budgets. I will have to stick to my numbers, and people are not going to be making the kind of money they were making before. Because if I'm taking a pay cut, and I am, then they will have to as well. And if they won't, then I have to hire new people.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, so will you tell Jeff that we will do it, we'll figure it out.
Hey, dogs.
Right, thanks.
Bye. Did you hear that?
That they're going to work it out?
Yeah.
There's a large part of me that's a little upset that I even had to have that conversation. These are agents that I'm very loyal to, that I give 90% of my business.
And after finally getting out of financial distress, a softer and more humble side to Jeff Lewis emerges.
It was a really stressful, difficult month, and it's never, ever been this bad for me. Finances were really bad and really stressful. I put myself in a really bad position, and fortunately, I'm getting out of it.
And believe it or not, at the end of the day, there are some perks to working for Jeff, especially when he bought Paris Hilton's former home.
Got some swag. Paris, I'm sorry. I stole your mail. Sorry. A few times. Some cute underwear, baby doll t-shirts. I couldn't find Paris. I didn't necessarily try, but didn't think I'd be able to get to her, so thanks, Paris.
I'm Mary Fulginiti for Nightline in Los Angeles.
Well, it seems like somehow, anyway, they're managing. Just ahead on Nightline, fighting from the inside, the high-ranking government official who wrestled with the White House on torture and wiretap. A federal judge yesterday ruled that several portions of the USA Patriot Act are unconstitutional. And in Congress, a new fight is brewing over the efforts to expand the use of spy satellites and aircraft by local and federal law enforcement. Well, these are just the latest volleys in an ongoing battle over the government's counterterrorism tactics. But for years, in the inner sanctum of the Bush administration, a few men and women have opposed the wishes of the White House. Jack Goldsmith was one of them, a top lawyer in the Justice Department, who tonight, for the first time, is breaking his silence. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross reports.
Jack Goldsmith was a 41-year-old self-proclaimed conservative, a former University of Chicago law professor, when he took on the job as head of the Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department in the autumn of 2000. Inside, Goldsmith says he found a legal mess.
I discovered in my first weeks on the job that some of our most important counterterrorism policies were based on legal opinions that I viewed as flawed.
Including what came to be called the interrogation techniques.
And not necessarily what was being done, but what might be done in the name of these opinions that I didn't know about. And I realized that I couldn't stand by them because they were so flawed. My first reaction was I should quit, because if I go down this path, it's going to cause enormous disruption to the administration's most important counterterrorism policies.
But Goldsmith says he stayed on, enduring bitter disputes at the White House over the next 9.5 months. Disputes that led him to consider resigning again and again as he moved to withdraw or modify the legal opinions he considered flawed.
In these critical national security areas, I bent over backwards to try to find ways to allow the president to do what he wanted to do, but I couldn't always do so.
So the law mattered that much, as opposed to the ability to question Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other al-Qaeda terrorists?
Well, I'm not sure that we have to choose between complying with the law and aggressive questioning of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I wanted to make sure that we were doing so lawfully.
So inside the administration, you must have seen as a
Goldsmith says his most serious clashes were with Vice President Cheney's lawyer, now Chief of Staff, David Addington.
He was a hugely influential person in designing all of the administration's counterterrorism policies.
But Goldsmith says Addington, who declined to comment to ABC News, was strictly behind the scenes.
He was always pushing other people to go out on a limb and do things and take responsibility for things that they weren't always about. And one never saw him doing it. He was angry at me once for a decision of mine, and he told me that if I ruled that way, the blood of the 100,000 people who die in the next attack would be on my hands.
Goldsmith says despite Addington, he stuck to his guns, revealing for the first time just how many key opinions that the Bush administration relied on had to be withdrawn or redone.
I did all of this very, very, very reluctantly, only because I thought the opinions were so deeply flawed and overbroad.
Not even close call.
I think it's fair to say